So as I was saying, there were never ever nanny cams in my home. But CPS still tried to say that there would be somehow. It's as if CPS, their thinking is just taking what I did with the nanny cams out of context. Like I just nanny cammed for no reason, or out of spite, or like I didn't try other options first, or something like that didn't happen. And then regarding the psych evals, let's talk about the CPS psych evals for a minute. So I did 2 CPS psych evals about a year apart. The first one was about 6 months after my children were originally returned back to the abuser after only 2 days away from the abuser. And again, my children were placed with best friends of the abuser, so he had access to them even during the 2 days that they were away. Because again, he will not have a friend that will not back him up and cover for him while he does whatever he wants, and lie for him and everything else. That's just always been the history. How he finds these people, I don't have any idea how he finds these people. I've never had a need for a friend like that, ever. I just, I've never felt any emotion or anything that would cause me to batter a child or children. And I've never had a need to surround myself with people that will support that. But during a CPS case, people fall out of your life. Oftentimes, they fall out of your life. Sometimes because they can't handle the grief of watching your life be destroyed. Sometimes because they can't understand why you keep fighting for your children. They think you should just forget about your children and go on. Sometimes because you're neglecting your friendships because you're focused on your children and fighting this nightmare. Sometimes because you change. The trauma from all of this changes you. You're not fun anymore. It's not that you're crazy. You're not crazy. You're not erratic. You're not overly emotional. You're not doing anything bad. You're not doing anything destructive per se, other than destroying yourself, staying in the CPS battle. But other than that, you're not doing anything off the rails, but you're not fun anymore. Nothing is funny anymore. You know, you can't go and watch a comedy or something and laugh like you used to. You can't tell jokes like you used to. You don't. It's hard to hold your attention on, movies and activities and stuff like you used to. It's impossible to be around people that have children, because you need your children. You need your children, and they're gone. You need them, and they're gone. So you can't be around children. You can't watch anything that has anything to do with children. You lose your faith in faith, in justice, in government, in the courts, in police, in social workers, in mental health workers. You just lose your faith in humanity. You stop being that happy-go-lucky person. You stop being trusting and open. And then there are the friends that think there must be something you're not telling them. You must have done something bad for CPS to take your children. Or, okay, so you're the abuser, your ex, he did something bad, but if you hadn't done something bad too, CPS would give you your children back, right? So you must be unfit somehow. You must have done something bad. And you didn't. You did not do anything bad. And you can only listen to these questions and these assumptions so many times, and explain it so many times, and prove it so many times, before you just disengage. It's destructive for you as a victim of the CPS abuse, I think, to just continue to listen to this garbage. I had one friend tell me that he knew of a woman who was caught up in a CPS case because her children were basically starving. She would not cook for her children. So CPS came and they brought a bunch of, macaroni and cheese and stuff like this. Oatmeal, basically stuff where you boil water. And the mother did not know how to boil water. And she refused to learn how to boil water. And she refused to cook these meals for her kids. And so CPS took the kids. Knowing what I know now, I think there was probably something else to that story. In reality, this was probably a mother that cooked gourmet meals every day, and it just lies in the CPS report, but who knows. But anyway, so this friend was like questioning, well, did I cook for my kids? Maybe I just didn't cook for my kids. Because this friend, couldn't envision me as battering or hitting a child or, screaming at a child or doing anything like that. The friend couldn't even envision that. So the friend was thinking, well, maybe you just didn't cook. You have to cook for your kids. You have to feed them or they'll starve if you don't feed them. No, I fed them. I'm the kind of person that can make really good meals from scratch. Nutritious meals, not junk food only. But I mean, you can only hear so much of that before you're just done. And then a lot of bad people get attracted to you, I think, in many cases, maybe not in all cases, but when you're in a situation like this. I had a couple I hired to do some work on the property. And I don't use any drugs, but unbeknownst to me, they were druggies. The woman was trying to get clean, and I think she did get clean. I fired them, so I don't really know what the outcome is exactly. However, the guy, her boyfriend, ended up shooting up methamphetamines, and my kids were long gone at this point. So, I mean, this wouldn't have even happened if my children were around, because I wouldn't be so caught up in the CPS case that I couldn't go do the work myself. And he went completely nuts, and in a rural environment, I actually had to leave my property and return to the city until a week later he was ready to be removed, and then I removed him and fired him. But anyway, and his girlfriend was gone already at that point. She'd left. But I remember this guy loaded on meth trying to sexually assault me and telling me that, he knew how I could show CPS that I was a fit parent. What I should do is I should take care of him and his girlfriend and house them and feed them and pay all their bills and make sure they had everything, get them all their clothes, everything they needed. And, and then I could show CPS that I was fit. This is how crazy some people are that will try to latch onto you. And anyway, I ended up leaving my property, and a week later, he'd come down enough off of the insanity. And I had no idea until I saw that, what meth does. I'd never even seen meth or done it or seen anyone do it or anything. I removed him, I fired him, and that was that. But the point is that bad people, if they find out you're involved in a CPS case, they will try to latch onto you to take advantage. And it's all well and good to say don't share that information. Of course, don't share that information. But the point is they find out, because you're always having to leave work to do something about the CPS case. You're always having to abruptly, stop what you're doing and go do something for the CPS case. Your whole world revolves around the CPS case, and then you get stuff in the mail about court dates and, this and that and the other thing, and, and then, you have to go see the CPS counselor for the treatment, for the disorder you don't have. And then that goes to Zoom, and you're doing, because of COVID, and you're doing these appointments via Zoom when this, nutty guy, who at that point wasn't loaded yet, is supposed to be doing work. And so you're there on your property where he's supposed to be building stuff and whatnot, doing these Zoom sessions with the CPS psychologist, and also Zoom visits with children. So 2 times a week you're doing this by Zoom. It's obvious that something is going on. And predatory people like that are very keen on picking up on it. So it's not just that you've overshared or you've been stupid. It's that they would have to be stupid, blind, and deaf not to figure out what's going on. CPS cases hijack your entire life. They hijack your entire life. And so predatory people can discern that this is going on, and they will take advantage. So meeting new people, new friends, is not very attractive, not to mention all of the other things I said before. You only have so much room in your life, in your mental space, in your emotions that are probably pretty well shut down after enough time with a CPS case to invest in other people that are not your children. Anyway, what I wanted to say in this video about the psychiatric evaluations. My psychiatric evaluations were basically MMPI and a short time speaking to the forensic psychologist. The first evaluation was about 6 months after my children were returned to the abuser in the beginning. And he was abusing them off the rail, and I was very stressed about this. And I felt like, obviously, it was the same as it was before I nanny cammed him. Nobody believed what was going on, and nobody did. And I was afraid he was going to kill one of them by battering to death. And it's a very distinct possibility that he could do that. And so regarding the MMPI, from my understanding, it came back as inconclusive, which the CPS forensic psychologist interprets as I was lying, or trying to lie. No, I wasn't trying to lie. I was being 100% truthful. I was being 100% truthful, and I don't know why it was inconclusive. I think maybe there's an issue in the grading of the test. I don't know. The second psychiatric evaluation was about a year later, and it was literally a day or two before a court hearing where CPS was going to bring up severing my parental rights. A big panic trigger, a big PTSD trigger. PTSD caused by the CPS case, not caused by something else. And the MMPI again came up as inconclusive. I was 100% truthful during the testing. I completely don't know why it was inconclusive. And in both of the psychiatric evaluations, other than the MMPI, I was judged on the false allegations that the abuser had waged through the years that were completely unprovable. Numerous of those allegations were actually proven false. The remaining were completely unprovable because I never did or said any of those things and never would. And in the second evaluation, the psychologist utilized how I panicked going into a court date, believing that CPS was going to sever my parental rights, and being fearful that he would not contact me if he had any questions, therefore fearful he would get it wrong. He would get the diagnosis wrong, and this would expedite CPS severing my parental rights, or perhaps returning my children to the abuser. Something my abuser always promised me would be the case, that he would end up with the children and I would end up with nothing. That's what he always said would be the case, and that is what has happened. So I panicked, and I sent some emails trying to clarify some things that I thought he would have questions about. At no point in time did I threaten him or anybody else. At no point in time did I say anything crazy. At no point in time did I say I was going to harm myself. There was nothing nuts about the actual content of any of those emails. They likely showed a level of panic, I'm sure, but that was it. That was it. And I explained what the level of panic, fear was about, what my concern was. And nonetheless, he just basically diagnosed me based upon the same old false allegations my ex, the abuser, created, most of which have been proven false. The rest could never be proven true, so they're false. Disregarding the entire history of the case, disregarding the entire history before the case, disregarding the abuse the abuser of my children perpetrated against my children, and the impact that would have on the children and myself, the way he got away with it. Disregarding all of that, disregarding the fact that I was about to go into a CPS court hearing where they were going to sever or try to sever my parental rights. And he completely misdiagnosed me. And there's no history. Even in those emails, it did not fit the, DSM criteria. Nothing fit the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual criteria. My history does not fit it. There's supposed to be a history. If you have there's one of these mental illnesses, there's supposed to be a history. And there isn't. There's no history. There's nothing. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So at this point, a little over a year later, I've completed the treatment for that disorder I never had. I have not only the diploma from completing the treatment, but I have a letter from the therapist that did the treatment speaking very highly of me, as well as notating she never saw any sign that I had the disorder, but I finished the treatment. I've completed a parenting test, a psychiatric parenting test, that evaluates you for risk of ever abusing or neglecting your children. And without taking the training that you're supposed to take after you take the test, because CPS never did a referral for that, never asked for that. So it's just extra, the test. That test is just extra. I paid for it, I took the test, and I tested as the lowest risk possible for ever abusing or neglecting a child, or ever being inappropriate with a child, or ever having an inappropriate expectation of a child. So basically I aced the test, did super good. And I'm willing to take the parenting classes that, that one would take after that test. But CPS has no interest in that. CPS actually has never had a reunification plan for me. CPS, from the day one, they were bent and determined to sever my parental rights by any means necessary, and either return my children to the abuser, who was not the custodial parent of my children before this, he was not, or sever parental rights and put my children up for adoption through CPS. Those were the only two paths CPS was interested in. And now they've returned my children to the abuser. So now it's just waiting to see when he's going to make a mistake and go back into his normal behavioral patterns, and whether or not he's going to get caught, or whether or not my children are going to turn him in. And considering how my children suffered in foster care and all the things that likely happened to them in foster care, I think my children have probably decided that they're better off being abused by their father, no matter how bad it is. And my children have been told things about me that are not true, including my older son being told that he could not live with me, it was not an option, because I had not finished the treatment, which again was a lie. And I explained that in one of my initial series short videos, but I was about 2 sessions away from finishing the treatment, and there was only a delay because the therapist had surgery and then she contracted COVID-19. She was sick with COVID-19. She tested positive for COVID-19, so there was a delay for her to get better. And the minute she got better, I finished out the 2 sessions remaining, and I got my diploma for having finished the treatment. And as I said before, she wrote a letter in my favor. So, and her letter was truthful. She was 100% truthful. So, and that all happened before the February 24th hearing. Up to this point, I have never been able to speak in court at all, beyond stating my name and the word mother of the children. I have never, ever been able to speak in court. And I don't know if I'm ever going to get to speak in court. But I've never been able to say anything to defend myself or my children. And like I said, I think I'm going to be long gone. And hopefully these videos will still be on YouTube via numerous channels, so that someday my children can find them and hear what happened. Thank you for listening.